Hey, this is my first recordings. I'm going to be raw and think about it. Hopefully, I can clean this up and post and get out all the ums and the pauses and stuff and make something halfway decent to listen to. So I'm just going to start. The story I wanted to start with is something that I'd never thought it would happen to me. I never believed it could happen, but it happened a long time ago, and it kind of coincided with a lot of things. It started me on my path, I guess, in one way or another. It was an odd stop. It was an odd ending, and that was also a beginning. If that makes sense. I got to figure out a hook some here, so you'll listen. But when I grew up, my parents were, for the most part, they were open minded. They were, of the boomer generation. They were proudly of the boomer generation. I grew up in Oklahoma City, child of the 80s. In 1983, I was 10 years old. And I say that because somewhere around between the ages of 10 and 12, my mom started taking classes at the local college. It was Rose State College, and they offered some annex courses, which were just fun courses, basket weaving and camping. But they also had classes like on beginning ground schools for people that wanted to fly and all that other kind of stuff. So the classes that she took was a parapsychology class. And it was like kind of an overview class. And it talked about paranormal activity, ghosts, hauntings, psychic abilities, Eastern religions, those past lives. At that time, they called them past lives. And it was kooky stuff, and it was right at the time when Shirley MacLaine was coming out and talking about her past life experiences and stuff. So it was kind of an interesting time. But I started going with her, following her classes, and going to classes with her and doing all the exercises that they did, and I even got past life readings and did past life regressions, and we talked about a whole bunch of the whole aspect of it. And when I was telling a friend of mine a few years ago about what what I was going through or what I had done and stuff, she was like, that sounds a lot like a psychic development class, like a psychic development 101, this whole overview kind of stuff. And I was like, and then talking to a cousin of mine, she's like, yeah, your mom was kind of witchy sometimes. And my mom was a devout Catholic woman. She wanted to go to church. She wanted to go to church on Sunday, on Wednesday, on Saturday nights, all that stuff. She wanted to do that, but my dad didn't like going to church, so she settled for going on Sundays. So it was weird to think of that, but in retrospect, as I think about it, yeah, she had a massive garden. She loved gardening. She could grow anything, and she loved making little herbal sachets for people and stuff when she would go overboard for Christmas and decorate. And he would make little dried sticks of cinnamon and just different herbs and stuff like that she would make as little ornaments to go on top of the presents that she gave away. And it's just really cool, intricate stuff. And so I think about it now, I was like, well, maybe there was more to it. But yeah, so we went through these classes, and it was really fun. It was really exciting. Things like, talking about Bigfoot and origins of Bigfoot, and learned a lot about like Edgar Casey, Sleeping Prophet. From there, we learned, or more into like the whole past lives thing. And those UFOs were really exciting. My dad actually started reading novels. He didn't go to any of the classes with us, but he felt like it was interesting too. And he was a historic military kind of guy. He was into that stuff, the old movies and everything, but he also liked science fiction, everything. So he started reading books about UFOs and UFO abduction, and that actually was getting popular too, as people telling their stories about that. And I distinctly remember him reading the book Communion, and which I believe was made by Christopher Walken, and Fire in the Sky with D.B. Sweeney. But he read them in the books because they came out in the 70s and stuff. It's fascinating stuff, like fascinating. And he would tell me so many things about, what was going on with these abductions and stuff. So this is how we grew up. Grew up talking about Atlantis. What went along with me is I was a kid, like I constantly have dreams, I'd have nightmares, all these different things that happen. People come into my room, people coming to get me. I was convinced at one point that if my parents left, they left me in the car, they run into the store or something. And if they were gone for any length of time, I'd get it in my head that they had been abducted somehow, replaced with some kind of, copy. And so when they would come back, I would actually try and devise questions that only my parents would know, and I could ask them, and so that I could determine it was actually my folks. I was like, remember yesterday when we were having breakfast and you got mad at me because I spilled orange juice and stuff? And my dad would be like, that didn't happen. What are you talking about? Right, right. No, I'm sorry. I was thinking of another day. And so, yeah, so this thought process or this belief into things that were outside of conventional 3D world, terrestrial world kind of thing was always in my mind, and it was always kind of around me and stuff. So we were getting older, and my sister's 4 years older than me, and it was coming time for graduation, and she, we were having a graduation party for him, and it was probably in May, going to be summertime, and putting together stuff. There was people over at the house. We had a pool and stuff, so my parents were always hosting parties and stuff. And the families would come over, and everybody get tanked up and swim and eat. Dad would barbecue, the whole 9 yards. So there's another party getting ready for it. But the thing is they were getting gifts in this party for my sister. So the whole idea was to get her out of the house so they could set up. So it would be kind of a surprise. She knew it was happening, but I guess the gifts were a surprise or whatever. And so my sister and I, for fun, and this is what we used to do when we were kids, is we'd go into town and get a Coke because the Sonic was 20-25 minutes away from our house. So, you know, we lived in a semi-rural area, so it was kind of a big deal to go get a Coke. And it was Sonic, and it's a Sonic Ice, or you get a cherry limeade or something. So I asked my sister to go, and we take off. And it's, you know, early in the day. It's got to be around lunchtime, noonish. We take off. She drove this hatchback Mustang at the time, gray. And we take off, and we had to go down Anderson Road all the way till it hit Draper Road, which is the tee off. And the reason why we were doing that is I asked her if we could go by the lake. The lake was a little bit longer drive, but it was always a lot more scenic because you could see the lake. And if you've ever seen water in Oklahoma, it's all red because of the red clay that's there. Draper Lake is red, like almost blood red. That's actually kind of an orangey-ish red. But yeah, don't go in it don't go swimming or anything like that wearing a light colored bathing suit because that sucker got stained red and it never came out. That's why all the lake people wore cutoffs and t-shirts and stuff when they went swimming. Anyway, we went by the lake, and as we're driving up to the stop sign and turn, kind of a little bit of an incline, we get up to the top of the incline where the stop sign is. When we look out and over the lake, you kind of see it's weird, but there's I thought it was a crack in the windshield at first because it was just really shiny and thin. But realizing that I'm looking through the windshield, not at a spot on the windshield, I'm like, what the hell is that? And my sister too she's quiet. She's just staring straight ahead. And we're just sitting there. It's hovering. It's not making a sound. It's not moving. And then it was completely, like I said, it was thin in our line of sight, but it appeared to kind of shift this way. And as it turned this way, that's when we could see the cigar shape of it. And it was like this, polished metal color, and it's just hovering there. And no sensation of movement, no nothing like that. We just saw it, and it kind of just disappeared, gone. Then we're sitting there still did I just see what I just saw? And I'm looking at my sister, and she looked at me, and we're like, what was that? What? And I'm like, did we just see a UFO? I don't even know that we would say it. Was that you know? And so we're like, this. I remember feeling that cold, sinking feeling, just like fear, but not fear. Kind of oh, it almost happened. You almost fell off a cliff, or you almost got hit by a car. It was like this. Oh shit, And I do remember a ringing in my ears after that happened, but I figured it was the blood rushing through my head and stuff. And so I look at my sister, and I called her Nani, or we all called her Nani. Her nickname was Nani. And I said, Nani, let's just go back. She's like, yeah, I don't feel right. Let's just go home. So she turns around there and just heads back. So we had left. I would say it took 10 minutes to get to where we were at. It probably took 5 minutes to get down the road. We get back and we come in, and everybody's standing in the living room. Like I said, nobody's at the pool. Nobody's, out having fun, which usually was the case. Everybody's in the living room, and we come charging through the door, and we're like, "Did you see what we just? Did you like who's what? No, like, and then like we just saw, and then my parents are going nuts, and they're like, "Where the hell have you been? Like, we've been waiting for you and stuff." And we're like, "No, no, you don't understand. We saw like a UFO. Like, you don't get it." And they're like, they're like, "Shut up. We haven't heard from you all day. What have y'all been doing? Where have you been at?" We're like, "No, we just left, and we just got back." And we both kind of look at each other, me and my sister, and then we kind of start looking around. And it was about 3 hours later than when we had left the house. Like, the sun was setting. It was getting, it was late in the day. Like I said, everybody was kind of came and gone, and we weren't anywhere to be. And then when my sister's luggage, which was her gift, was like sitting in the middle of the room. And yeah. And so, like my parents got mad, and they kind of like when we said it, they just kind of like gave us this weird look, and they just kind of like stopped talking or anything. And my dad's like, "Well, here's, let's just go, and like, Angelina, here's your gifts and here's your thing." And so, and then no one really said anything there from then on out. But from what I remember at that point, like the whole paranormal stuff stopped. My dad stopped reading books. We stopped going to those classes for sure. And my sister and I would go. We'd go to like there was like some new age bookstores and stuff like that. We'd go and look at crystals. And I was really into Native American mythology and stuff. So stuff like that. But never talked about UFOs again. Never talked about your Casey. Never talked about any of that other stuff. And in fact, because like I talked about on another podcast that like my dad even kind of like put it out of his head. And I remember when the movies were coming out, like I remember Fire in the Sky coming out. And I'm like, Dad, remember that? I remember when you read that book. You want to go see the movie and stuff? And he's all like, I don't know. He's like, I don't think I read the book. That doesn't sound right. Like, I'm not really interested in that kind of stuff. I'm reading Tom Clancy right now. And I'm like, no, no, it's about the UFO abduction where the guy got abducted and they blamed it on his friends, and it just turned into this weird thing. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't have any idea what you're talking about." And then we actually went and saw the movie, and he was talking about like he's like, "Ew, that's so," like, because the end scene or the end part of the movie is the guy inside the spacecraft and stuff. And he's like, "Oh God, that's not like anywhere that they talk about or how they mention it." I'm like, "Dad, you read the book, you should know." And he was just kind of like, I don't like, you keep saying that, but that's not what happened. And so yeah, so they stopped that, and then we went on from there. And like I said, my sister and I still kind of like dabbled and kind of checked in it because it didn't stop for me. And then we move on, and I go on to high school and then to college, and kind of like start living like a more conventional life, and kind of put that behind me for a while. Still had an interest in it, but just put it away. And it wasn't until 3 years ago now that I was in another bookstore and crystal shop and kind of new agey place, and took a tarot class for fun. And then something happened in the tarot class that just cracked it right open, brought everything rushing back to me, all those memories, all that stuff, and brought me back up to where I was like, oh, I should have been on this journey a long time ago. And I took off from there. So that's another story to tell you about later, probably the next one. So yeah, so I hope you stuck with me and listened to the whole thing. I really appreciate what you did. I have tons of stories to talk about, and yeah, so and kind of give you a little idea of where the direction this is going. Not gonna be 100%. It's not gonna be 100% psychic abilities. It's not gonna be 100% this or another. But we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff, and my brain is like it's like a train on a track that just goes around and around, and eventually the ideas will come back around again. So like, there's no telling from one story to the next what I'm going to be talking about next. I'm having to write them down now. I'm having to plan all that stuff out. So I hope you stick with me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you get a lot out of this. I hope you get a lot about the upcoming stories that I tell. I want to be interactive. I want to put this on a platform to where there can be comments, there can people come reaching out to me and stuff. And right now I have an Instagram channel, Bearded Terrorist, BeardedTarot. You know what? I'm going to put it on the screen. So, but like tarot card, Bearded Terrorist. So that on Instagram is probably the best way to get a hold of me or reach out to me if you want to talk to me or give me any kind of feedback. I'll be putting notifications and stuff like that when I post videos or podcasts or whatever. So you can follow me there, and I'll let you know for sure where everything's going to be, so you can track me down there if you'd like to. So yeah, I appreciate you. I'm grateful that you listened to this whole thing. I love you for showing up, clicking on this, and spending a little bit of time with me. So I'll see you next time.